last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant!
Judgment, Alfred.
Boy, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alfred.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so good to see all of you tonight. Hey Lori, hey Napanoch Father, good to see you. I saw SI Officer, Robini. So good to see all of you guys. I'm so sorry I was behind the scenes doing something, so I didn't pop anybody's comments up or write anybody down. But Meow, good to see you, my friend. Also Robini, good to see you, Robini. Also Little Miss Sharon, so nice to see you. Also, I see Bo. So good to see all of you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday, and good to see you, Sasha Johnson. Welcome in, everyone. Hey, Sabrina. So good to see everyone. I really appreciate you all being here. And again, I hope you had a wonderful Sunday. Sorry I was a little bit late for this live tonight. I hate being late. I despise being late. Hey, Couponing and Joe and Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. It's so good to see all of you guys tonight. Because I don't want to. I don't want you guys to think that I am being disrespectful of your time. Because it means a lot to me when you all are here. Whenever you hit the like button, or if you join a membership, or if you're just here in the bushes, I also appreciate everyone viewing and listening to what I have to say. So it's so good to see all of you tonight. I am going to talk a little bit more about what we talked about yesterday. So again, just the major elements that are very important in any of the true crime cases, whether it's Sebastian Rogers' case, that's who we're most focused on, because again, I've been working to bring a special guest on. Sometimes scheduling issues can be a problem, but as long as everything goes as planned, tomorrow we're going to have a special guest up. So I really kind of wanted to just keep the conversation going, because the live yesterday was very long, but it was because I was reading all of your comments, and you all are wonderful about conversating back and forth with me, so much so that I can't even get to all of your comments. But I love reading them because you're so smart, and there are certain things that I might not think of, or we have local people that I am very grateful for who watch, who will let me know different things too. So because I don't live in Tennessee. I've never lived in Tennessee, and I don't know the area. And it's just like any other tourist. If they come to town, you don't know certain things. What's the matter, bud? He's just been in rare form lately. I don't know what his deal is. I think he wants to come up here and say hi, but I don't want his big old butt in my lap. You can't come up here, lap dog. I know. Go lie down. So, yeah. When it comes to these cases, it's really important to look back on the history, right? So if we were playing a detective, right, we would want to know the history of the family, right? So maybe some things like where they lived in the past, how long they've lived at the residence. Now, in this case with Sebastian Rogers, the residence is a very important topic, in my opinion, and something to consider, because let's be honest, that is the last place that Sebastian was said to have been by his mother, Katie. Hey, Carla. And if we're to believe everything she's saying, which yesterday when I pulled in an interrogation of a mother who did have guilty knowledge of what happened to her child, she acted and said a lot of the same things that we heard from Katie Proudfoot. And let's just be honest, that's where I'm looking at history. That's where I'm looking at patterns in true crime. That's where I'm looking at everything. Her mannerisms, the lack of emotion, all of that. Yeah, he's whining Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. I just gave him a bone, so I thought he would be like super happy, and he scarfed it down, and then now he's like, can I come sit in your lap? And I'm like, no, you can't. So he's I don't know, sometimes he gets in his moods, he's got personality. I love him for that. SI officer says yes, also like all the dogs that they've had too, where all of those what's the excuse for getting each of those through the years? Well, and see, that's the thing, like it's very odd, because we do have those strange elements of like all of these pets, right? And not to say that every pet is going to be a good fit for a family, right? Sometimes you think you might get a pet and there can be various reasons. Maybe the dog is more of a hyper dog and would do better if you had a bigger, yard or space for them, something like that. Or maybe you figure out the dog isn't great with kids and you're like, I don't trust this dog around my kids, right? Something like that. So those things happen, and I understand that. But we do have these really weird elements with these animals, right? Starting with the earliest memory going back in history, right, of Chris Proudfoot moving in with Katie and Sebastian, or them all collectively, moving in together. And then Chris is like, hey, by the way, about those 2 cats that you have, I'm allergic and I need them to leave, right? However it went down, 2 cats, you know, they were no longer a part of the family because Chris did not want them around. Again, for those of you who didn't get to catch yesterday's live, we explored an interrogation where the mother herself stated that the motive was because her and her boyfriend had been arguing back and forth about her children and how he didn't like them. He thought they were annoying, didn't want them in the house anymore. So this woman, Brittany Gosney, chose James Hamilton right here, you know, in his beautiful mugshot, looking like, you know, a math head, not arithmetic. And, you know, she decides that she's going to choose him and, you know, ultimately prison for possibly life, and choosing him over her children. She had 3 children that she chose for this scumbag over here, you know? So that was the motive, and that has been said and alleged that Chris Proudfoot gave Katie a motive and said it's either Sebastian or me, it's either him or me. So I think it's important to remember that not every case is the same, but there are patterns that we can identify throughout the different cases. Napanoch Father says, the lack of Katie coming out and saying anything is so ridiculous. Can we just lock this lady up already? Like, what are we going to do here for real? Yeah, the world is so crazy. I so agree with you. And I think the main issue for me is the silence too, because, you know, it's like, where is Sebastian? Like, you were the last one. We weren't there, right? So we have no idea what happened. We don't know these people, so we have no idea what happened. But Katie knows herself, her husband, the dynamic. She knows her son the best, you know, and yet she's being so quiet. And it is so weird. And I do feel like they need to lock her up. You know, and if it wasn't for this new footage being put out, and really a lot of the people who are reanalyzing this footage, like Chris from the Mob Crew, for example, I was watching his video tonight, his live, and I was in the bushes. I was actually kind of taking some notes and really listening and not paying attention to the chat because, you know, you guys probably know me, you know, I'm a social butterfly. I like to talk in the chat, and I like to talk back and forth with people, but I find that I'm not really listening to really what's going on up, you know, at the presenter, the person presenting the live as much when I'm doing that. So sometimes I will sit off in the bushes and just listen and watch. And there was some really interesting pieces that Chris picked up on that no one else has, to my knowledge, about Katie, you know, allegedly putting an earbud or something in her ear, some sort of listening device, right? I'll say it like Chris might, you know, like us to say it, you know, it wasn't a dash cam, it was this, you know, whatever it is, she shoved something in her ear. And, you know, that's what it looked like to me as well. And so I thought that was very interesting, and it made me wonder who she was having, you know, a private conversation with at that point, because we do know that there was a conversation that happened between 9:30 and, you know, 11, whatever, close to midnight. I mean, again, we've heard all different accounts until I actually look at a call log for verification. There's not really much that I can say as 100% fact on that, right? Without having it up here and presenting it to you all and saying, like, look, this is why I think this, right? Because obviously anybody can make anything up. And I like to show receipts. SI officer says everything is so disposable to him, in my opinion. Yeah, everything and everyone. Yeah, because like we talked about last night, you know, Chris Proudfoot views people in his life as objects and not as people, right? With thoughts and feelings and as their own person. He does not value people that way. He looks at them like chattel. And Bo says, SI officer, no kidding. That's what I want to know. Well, and 4 or 5 dogs. Yeah, 4 or 5 dogs. SI officer says we're talking 4 or 5 dogs. And then also we had the bearded dragon that died. And that's what Katie said, it died. Or Kate or Chris or Katie, either one said, there was the bearded dragon, it died. And I did a short piece on that. And without as much knowledge about bearded dragons, like my brother had a bearded dragon. He had 2 actually. And the first one he had for a little while, and then like he realized that they like do this mating dance, right? And they kind of like to have little partner or whatever. And so he got a second one. But they lived for years and years. So I don't know what happened, like how long they had it, how old it was when they got the little guy. But I will say that, we know about him, we know about Brownie, the snake, which Sebastian loved the snake, and everybody talked about that. Both Chris and Katie obviously talked about that, and that's how we know about it. And he was made to get rid of the snake. So, I mean, multiple animals. And, I'm not saying, again, like I said, there are circumstances that change. If it's not good for you to have the animal anymore, you might give it to someone who can take care of it. It's completely understandable. Animals pass away. It's completely understandable. It's sad. It's a member of your family, but it is, in this case, excessive. And again, knowing that Chris treats animals like, they're just property to him. It's not like any special kind of connection, right, or anything like that, in my opinion. In my opinion, narcissists are incapable of having that type of a deep connection with another person, let alone an animal. My opinion. Carla says every other case would have charged them both with child abuse and neglect and questioned them intensely. Absolutely. And I got a great comment from someone earlier, and I was supposed to bring it in, and I didn't, I think. So we'll just do this. Oh. Let's see. Hopefully I don't have too many pictures, so it'll add it for me. But it was a really great comment. I'm not going to be able to read it if it's like that. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'll bring it in. But it's a really good comment that somebody had made about my live. Okay, so before it kicks me off, it looked like it was about to kick me off. Let me pull this in. Okay, so basically, it was such a long live, but I really think it was a good one. You guys had so much great stuff to say that, like, whenever I would get caught up in the comments, people were commenting more and more. So I really enjoyed the discussion. So I'm really, really thankful to have you guys, here, keeping that discussion going and being so interested in these cases. It really, makes me happy. So I appreciate you guys for that. Lady Freedom, watching replay, love watching, but your lives are so long. Anyway, the first thing you notice is that poor little James's mom and boyfriend are poor and don't have the status that the proud feets have, right? Proud asses, that's great, right? But the proud feets have. That's why they were treated differently. If little James's mom lived in a beautiful neighborhood and good jobs and friends with LE, they would not have been treated like criminals from the start, like KP and CP, who never were suspects. But Seth, the poor parent, was treated terribly by LE. His house was trashed. They treated him like a criminal. Where CP and KP were doing ride-alongs, leaving town, going on vacations with LE, people with money get better treatment, and it's what freaking judge gives him the visitation and even allows child in their custody. So talking about faith again, it's all wrong, but horribly true. And I bet anything CP gets custody of Faith, and if he does, the world better stand up and shout. But I know we won't, and there is no we, the people, anymore. No one stands together, so we fall. And I mean, I can't agree with all of what's being said here at the end, because I don't think that Chris will get custody of Faith. I have to just say that. But I can see and feel the frustration of this person who commented, and I agree, and I think it's very well said on the latter part, talking about, and that's was part of my message as well that I was trying to kind of get across to people, was look at the way this girl is being treated, and also she looks younger than Katie. In my opinion, that makes a difference too. If they think they can get away with it, someone who isn't as much aware of their rights, right, as their human rights as a person, would realize that they best get a lawyer and shut their trap up if they're guilty. But this gal didn't realize that, right? And then who knows if she could even afford a lawyer, right? Maybe she would only be able to get a public defender. So much different, right? Even though there were so many patterns that were pointed out that were the same, many of the things that we're seeing in this case is quite possibly why Katie was not put into a squad car like the rest of us would have been right off the bat and said, "Where's your son? We know you know where he is. You were the last one with him. You are the only one that knows," right? Because she couldn't even tell anybody when asked by the news outlets where Sebastian could have possibly gone to. I mean, it was her, not me. Don't get mad at me for that. No, ma'am, and no, sir. That is not my fault. Hey, Town Chat Cafe. Oh, I'm glad you're here, Town Chat Cafe. Sorry about that. I think I got a little bit behind in the chat. Napano's father said I said at the beginning of this year that he would be found this year, but I'm not so sure about that now. With the way it's looking, it just seems like the people that are able to don't care. Well, and that's what's really scary too. And I don't know how true that statement was that was made allegedly by Sheriff Kratic, saying like, I'm not going to come out and do any updates, and even if there's a break in the case, I'm not going to let any of you guys know about it. Again, very petulant, stubborn, immature. But I think that that is Eric Kratic. He's very immature. He's not stupid. And I don't think he does care like he should, Napano's father. I do feel that, because otherwise we would have seen a proper investigation, which we didn't. So we would have seen him asking about the history of the family, right? How long have you lived in the house for? What is Sebastian's school like? Does he go to public school, or is he homeschooled? Any of those things, right? Was there CPS involvement? Yes, we know that there was, right? Sebastian was in counseling. Those should all be red flags for law enforcement. Every single one of those things would say, oh, wait a minute, right? Something isn't right here. Carla says she is off playing mom to Nina's daughter. Katie, you will never be her mother, and you're a monster. Yeah, I feel like this. If there was a woman that was putting a camera in my face and recording my despair, I wouldn't want her by my daughter. I'd be afraid for my daughter. And I do think only a monster does that, because if, again, I was asked by anyone, and I don't care if, you know, they had a gilded member, to do that to their ex, it would be a big no. And I wouldn't want to stick around with that person. Hell to the nah. Hey, Kathy, that's just one thing that is absolutely despicable. And no, I will not harass somebody with you. No, I don't think that's cute. I don't think that's funny. I think it's pathetic, and I think you need to get a life. And I think that you need to respect the mother of your daughter, and you need to thank your lucky stars that she isn't someone that you actually do need to, you know, take away from their mother. But we can see that Katie doesn't know where her child is. So, I mean, again, Carla says, Katie, you play mom and try to cause Nina pain, but Faith hates you and Chris. She is old enough to understand her brother is missing because of you two. She is probably scared shitless. Yeah. And that's another thing, too, that this whole entire time I have really, really had Faith on my heart. I've prayed about Faith. I've prayed for her safety, her protection, and for her to hopefully make it out of this without being completely traumatized. Because again, I can only imagine Carla being a little girl in that house and seeing how they can just forget about her brother and, oh, well, let's go to Disney. You know what I would be thinking? Would they do that to me? That's what I would be thinking. If they did that to my little brother, my big brother, I don't have a big brother, a little brother. They did that to my brother, I'd be wondering if they were going to do that to me too. A couple people in the family drive a sedan, Sasha. A couple people do. You know, I'm wondering who all had access to that type of a vehicle back then. I would imagine they would probably have tried to get rid of it. You know, but that's a good question. Bearded dragons are not that difficult, says Show Poodles. They're really cute. They're really cute. And I always used to enjoy like talking to it like it was like a furry animal, and it would just look at me like, you know. It was a funny little guy though. I remember Billy and Stewie were their names. But yeah, and they're really cool. They do like a mating dance. They go like this to each other. It's really funny. It's cute. Like they do like a little dance, and it's a lizard that does it. It's cute. They're really, really cute. He threw away everything Sebastian loves. And, you know, he even made Sebastian take it to the street. Like he said, you know, you're going to take it to the street, you know. What a crazy son of a bitch. You know, anytime I think of that, Lori, I'm thinking to myself, who does that crazy stuff, you know? Hey, Forget Me Not, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Snakes are pretty easy, Carla, I think. I mean, I've known a couple people who have had snakes. It wouldn't be my it wouldn't be my animal of choice. There was like this little pink snake that my one friend's had, and it was really, really like small. And then, you know, it would just like slither around. So it wasn't like scary or anything like that. Some of the bigger snakes, I would imagine, you know, my thing is I just wouldn't want to like feed it the live, you know, animals and stuff. Like to me, that wasn't always my favorite thing to watch or anything like that. I don't know, but it's not like I'm afraid of them. I'd rather see a snake than a bug. I mean, I don't know. I'm weird like that, I guess. Like, I'd rather see, you know, like, reptiles don't freak me out as much as bugs do. So, but I don't want to watch them eat, like, a little mouse or something. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I've seen them do it. I mean, you know, but Sasha says, why would KP be using Bluetooth in the vehicle? You know, that's a good question, and I don't know who she was talking to either. It's okay, Beegs. I don't know who she was talking to either. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't able to really analyze the video. I always like to watch things twice. So it's kind of hard, like when something really good comes out that night. If I'm not like sitting there feverishly taking notes, I want to make sure that I'm catching everything too. So, I mean, I did make a couple notes, and we might possibly talk about that aspect of things, because I really enjoyed listening to what Mob had to say about, or excuse me, Chris from Mob Crew had just, I call him Mob for some reason. But, you know, just listening to what he has to say, and then, you know, him analyzing the videos, I think that he has a lot of experience with that, and he's able to pull in a lot of things that we might not be able to. And again, you know, my focus has been so much more on Yellow Jacket than has been on Green Hoodie. Not that I forgot about Green Hoodie or anything like that. I think Green Hoodie was involved in some capacity with something. I'd like to know who these people are. SI officer says, and yeah, even if they did give it to someone, I want to know each person they gave it to. Yeah, and I mean, and I do too, because I want to get to the truth of the matter, right? You know, and that's what's the most difficult. Because it's, you know, we've been lied to the whole time, you know? Sasha. Sasha, you crack me up. SI officer says, Lori, you've got that right. Absolutely threw away everything, or intentionally, purposely hurt Sebastian in every way possible with his property. Yeah. And I mean, just, you know, if you think about these extreme punishments, has to be some underlying hatred involved in it, right? Like taking away something that somebody loves is wrong. I mean, it's one thing to use. I mean, I'm a big believer of, like, you know, you take a privilege away if, you know, the child's doing something, but like, you can't be extreme with it. You have to be like, okay, so you're grounded from your phone for a week if you're a teenager. Like, that is like the worst thing you could possibly do. You know, it's like, oh God. And I mean, maybe I had a, you know, a dramatic, you know, girl, so that's different, right? But I mean, you know, it was like, oh my God, I'll do anything. Just give me the phone back. You know, so yeah, it was easy. I mean, you have to be like a parent, right? Like, you have to put some thought into it. You can't just be like, well, you're grounded for 2 years. Like, what is that going to do really, besides make them hate your guts? SI officer says, in my opinion, emotional abuse, just exactly what narcissists do to their to the people that they abuse, physically, mentally, emotionally, in my opinion, of course, even though we know it's a fact. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's a different level. It's really psychological warfare. It is, and it's getting into your mind. It's getting into your psyche. It's some of the things that you can't forget that was said about you to you. You know, and abusers do that. They do, and they want to get in your head, and not allowing them to do that is difficult, right? Because people would say, well, just ignore it, you know. But when it's like rapid fire and it's over and over and over again, it's very, very difficult to ignore. And then on top of it, you want to stand up to the narcissist, because a narcissist is the most, right? Now, I don't recommend calling them out, but I do think that standing up to them is something that is very important, in terms of protecting yourself, setting up boundaries. Even though you wouldn't think that that's something that would bother them, right? You might not think, like, Lady Freedom, that's not powerful. Like, what's that going to do? It does a lot, because when you cut off their narcissistic supply, it enrages them. like their little egos are so fragile, they can't take it. Like, oh my God, you know, it's like, it's the weirdest thing ever, but ignoring them at a certain point is only going to make them want to be shown more, right? So they're going to do more to you and more to you and more to you to get that reaction, because that gives them the supply that they're looking for, right? It's like, you know, it's like Mario getting the mushroom. Forget Me Not says the man that took in the snakes said he never had more contact with CP, and Sebastian was not visiting his snakes that CP alluded to. I don't know if that was confirmed, but it fits CP's MO, in my opinion. Yeah, Forget Me Not. I agree. I agree with that, because even the way that he said it, I think it was more so that he was seeing probably the negative reaction that he was receiving from Smiley's listeners, right? Because this is a story that we heard about on Smiley Stories World. So, you know, just really quick for anybody that doesn't know about Brownie the snake, Sebastian had a snake named Brownie. He loved the snake with all of his heart, and he was super excited to have him. Well, at some point, Chris had like 30 snakes in the house, and he's like, oh, Sebastian's not taking care of Brownie. So he got rid of all of the snakes, right? And left Sebastian without the snake. And he told Sebastian that he would, after he told the story, he told everybody that he told Sebastian that he can earn his snake back, but he never gave him the opportunity to do so, right? It's extreme. It's very extreme. Now, if you had a contact, say, with someone, and you know, took the snake and actually did turn it into a learning experience, it might be something. But again, it's extreme. It's the step parent doing something that really they have no right to do, in my opinion. And some people may argue, well, that's Chris's house and he pays the bills there, and Sebastian's just a kid. And I understand that. I'm actually a pretty strict parent in that regard too. You know, I mean, you're going to have to follow the rules and whatnot. But with a narcissist, it's not like that. It's not for like a greater good or for their own good or to teach them anything. It's my way or the highway. And, oh, they're not listening, that little, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's him or me. Just like this piece of shit told Brittany Gosney. You know, it's either me or the kids. I don't want them around. And, you know, just like Katie Proudfoot, you can't believe everything that comes out of these people's mouths. So, you know, who knows? Maybe they were a gunning for little James Hutchinson. Poor little baby, 6 years old. Hey, C. Taylor. Yeah, I just sold them all. Like, took them all 30 snakes. I was like, what? How is that teaching anybody a lesson? And who was taking care of the other 29 snakes, right? Or maybe he had 30 plus Brownie, right? So who was taking care of them? You know, what was the point? It's like, there's no point. He just sounds like a bumbling fool. Sasha says, I think he said we could solve since we think we are so wonderful, and we are, and he's going to answer for that and active with evidence. Well, and you know, he thinks that he's going to be able to dupe other people, or he's going to be able to threaten them into being quiet and not talking anymore, you know? Thank you, Lori. And that's what he wants, you know? Carla, Kratic thinks he's above the law. Kratic, you're going down. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think enough people saying it, you know, I really do. I think enough people coming together and being like, this is ridiculous. Where's Sebastian? Why haven't you done an adequate investigation? You know, because again, family dynamics is another huge thing to look at. Now, do people want their family looked into particularly? Probably not if you have a family like Katie does. Probably not if you have a past like that. I understand. Look, if we live long enough on this planet, we will have trauma of some sort. And if you never had trauma a day in your life growing up and you were that sheltered that you never experienced anything terrible, then that's great for you. But I'm here to tell you, if the minute that you experience some level of trauma, it's probably going to hit you like a ton of bricks, not like it would with somebody who's used to it. Let's just be honest, right? So at some point in your life, you may have a traumatic experience. Like you may be walking down the road and somebody mugs you, heaven forbid. It's terrible, right? Maybe you had a sheltered life and you had no idea people could be that evil or horrible or selfish or, whatever, they would do that for whatever you have in your pocket, right? Or because you have a really pretty expensive ring on or something like that, but people do those kinds of things. They'll even take your life over it. They'll take your life over a little bit of money so they can go feed their habits. They don't care. They have no regard, right? No regard. So at a certain point, if you live long enough, you are probably, and if you go outside, right? If you're agoraphobic and you just stay in your house all day and you don't go nowhere, I mean, you're gonna lessen the risk, right? You don't ever interact with anybody. You're gonna lessen the risk of you getting hurt, right? But I mean, it's all part of it. You can't shut yourself away from everybody. You might not ever get hurt, but you're never going to meet anybody good either. You're shutting yourself off. You're isolated, So again, everybody has something. If it's not from your family, then that's good, right? That's something to be happy for. It's not a reason to look down on someone else because they had a rough past with a family member. It's not someone else's fault if they're traumatized by somebody in their family, especially when they're a child. That's not what I'm saying. But when we have registered SOs in the family, when we have a history of SA on Sebastian, the missing boy himself, this is a problem. So going back in history, CPS, SA, family of RSOs, a family that has been said to call Sebastian derogatory terms due to his different ability. Check, 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 check. Okay? I didn't do it. I didn't make it up. As a matter of fact, I don't think I could fathom a story this sick. Okay? So, come for me if you will, but I'm just speaking the truth from what I've heard. SI officer, let's look at CP and his upbringing. It seems that he was brought up around a bunch of bullies. Check, 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 check. So he really doesn't know any better. His attitude and personality is seen as acceptable in his childhood. Yes, and this is where we find the dynamic with Chris and the narcissist, right? We have a mother who is overbearing and who will never let the child learn. That is completely different, right? She's always there to swoop in and, oh, Chrissy didn't mean it. And, oh my gosh, can we pay for your window? And, oh my gosh, can we do this? And, oh, we can't let him. No, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. No, he's not. He's a shithead. And he deserves to have whatever's coming his way in terms of consequences. Maybe if he learned when he was little, then this wouldn't be happening right now. But instead, Chris was always allowed to make these shit decisions and ruin other people's lives, and then everybody around him is blamed and not him. And as a matter of fact, he's protected. Breeds a narcissist. Right? And the reason why I know this is because I've done a lot of research. Some of the really great people who are actually doctors and are wonderful in the field. One who is a self-aware narcissist, Lee Hammock. He is a self-aware narcissist who talks about narcissism, and he will tell you all of it. Go watch him. Also, Dr. Ramani, she is another one that will lay it all out for you. And, you might even sit there and think to yourself, wow, this is so crazy. You know, this is exactly what I went through, right? Because they're not original. They're textbook. It's textbook. It's not original. So you can really read these people very easily when you know what to look for. And they hate that. Oh, the narcissist hates when they're exposed. They hate it. They hate it. Hey, Kathy Bartholomew. Sasha says Disney's perv land, in my opinion. Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, Sheriff Grady Judd, he does a lot of, the S rings, and things like that. He busts the hell out of them. I mean, he does sting operations all the time, and he catches them, and there'll be 50 people up there. And Sasha, I'm going to say a good 25 to 50% of those people are people that have some affiliation or worked for Disney at some point. And I'm not even exaggerating. All you have to do is go look at Grady Judd and his busts. I mean, and he loves to tell everybody about every person on the board. He knows exactly who these MFers are, knows exactly who they are. And it's because he knows and he's committed to justice, and he realizes that, yeah, there's people that do that, and they're working at schools, and they're working at churches, and they're working at Disney, and he's ready to get them. And heaven forbid they work for his department, and heaven forbid they come in from another state. He loves that shit too, So I agree. I think it's perv land as well, and it's expensive as all get out. Hey, Andrea, good to see you. Oh, she has to be so terrified, Lori. Poor little Faith. And she's just gorgeous as she could be. I mean, adorable. Adorable. Looks just like her mom. Bless says, in my opinion, the absolute worst part of this case is that the complete neglect of Sheriff Kratic towards the victim, Sebastian Rogers. Press conferences should have been given weekly, as in most communities. Amen, Bless. And here's my thing, too. We never saw Chris and Katie at a press conference. We never saw the parents invited up there, right? It's typical, because it wasn't that sort of thing, right? In my opinion. We also never saw a picture of Sebastian. It was always Eric Kratic, I don't want to see a picture of him. He ain't missing. He's right fucking there. I don't want to see a picture of his ass for. Hey, wait, what? Good to see you. Thank you for hitting that like button. We need smoothies from Smoothie King. That sounds so good. I would love to have one of those. I like the blueberry ones. Just in the past couple of workers were arrested for taking people up girls' skirts. Oh, nasty. Show poodles. See? In the past couple of days, there was workers arrested over at Disney for peeping up people's skirts. Disgusting. Disgusting. Little creeps. And you're at Disney, right? You're thinking it's the most wholesome place on the planet. Bullshit, it is. Carla says, whatever happened. Are you sure that wasn't? Never mind. I'm not going to say. Allegedly, in my opinion, was that Chris? We know he likes to peep the ladies. Carla says, whatever happened to the car, Crime Time Buzz and Pearls announced it had been impounded, and during CTB, she got a call or a text telling her not to discuss it. Nothing else was said. Oh, I don't know, Carla. See, I wish I could catch everything. But I just can't. Especially when I go looking around during, when I was looking for those interrogation videos. Oh, goodness sakes. I was all over the damn place. I'm okay, let me look for this interrogation. Let me listen to this one. And, I was listening to a lot of them, and, there were patterns established in a lot of these, and it's always this, oh, the kid just poof, vanished in the middle of the night. I went to bed and the kid just, gone. What the hell? And the parents aren't worried in the slightest. They're not crying. It's I don't know. I don't know who they think they are that they're going to get away with it. Bo says, OMG, my son has a bearded dragon here and my daughter has 8 snakes. I live in a zoo. Don't ask. Bo, that's funny. Well, and I think it's pretty cool if kids are into taking care of animals. It shows them so much, responsibility and to love something and, to care for something else. And it's such a good experience for them, and I'm sure your kids love them, love the snakes and love the bearded dragon. Like I said, I think they're so cute. I saved a frog from the swimming pool the other day because I felt bad for him. He was stuck, and so I caught him. He gave me a run for my money. I had to like keep on like going after him. He'd just hop away. Every time I go to grab him, he'd hop. It was funny. I thought somebody was playing a trick on me. But I didn't want him to get like stuck up in the filter or like jump into jump and not be able to like swim in the deep end. As the officer says, but I think they had 35 snakes. That's crazy. Who the heck that has that much of a collection? Ew. And pew. Well, and I'll tell you what, I've actually thought about where they would have stored that many snakes. Like, did they have an extra bedroom that had like the aquariums? Because I can see like having them like on a rack, right? Like the aquariums on racks, but like, don't snakes get to a certain, like whatever their environment is, like they'll grow to that environment. I know some lizards are that way and stuff like that. So, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, please feel free to, because I'm not an expert by any means on this subject, but like, isn't that kind of stunting their growth? Like if they're in like cages and never like, I don't know. I just think it's kind of cruel to have that many if you're not like, because that would be, 35 snakes, you'd have to have a shit ton of aquariums. I don't know. And I'm picturing the biggest aquarium that I've had. And it was like, I don't know freaking how many gallons that thing was. But it was one of the great big ones. Sasha says, I love bugs, but no snakes. I will be in the next town in 5 seconds. That's funny. See, I feel like that about like a spider, and people are probably like, what? A little tiny spider? But you know, like I have a picture of my daughter and I holding a boa constrictor. It was a big white albino one at the circus one year, and they were taking pictures with it. And I was like, yeah, why not? We'll take a picture with the damn snake, And I wasn't, too keen on it, but it was cool. It is what it is, but some of those snakes are scary. I don't know, like to live with one in my house, I don't know. Probably not. Bo says we feed them frozen. Oh, okay. So, okay. That's different. I think that would be a little bit different because I'd feel bad like picking out a little mouse and he's so cute. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like, oh. And then it reminds me of like Tom Green, that sick movie from back in the day. I don't know, with the snakes and him feeding the mouse and. Oh, okay. So she wanted to breed them and sell them because she has severe social anxiety. Don't know if she will ever work, so she researched snakes. Hey, that's cool, Bo. I think that's amazing that she's, doing something like that. That's wonderful. And, everybody has different interests in things, so I hate to be like, oh, you like snakes, well, that's great if you do. And, maybe she could help other people like that. I know, who was it? Ben Rennick was a well-known snake breeder. And, it's alleged that his wife took his life. And some of the snakes that he bred were beautiful. Like their markings and stuff, and like the lime green ones, those are really cool looking. Bo's like, but no breeding. Yeah, they are beautiful show poodles. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I do think like because there's little tiny, teeny tiny lizards around here that just like run around. And then there's really big, great big ones. And then I've seen like massive like gators and things on, just like on shorts or on the news or something. They're huge. It's like a freaking dinosaur. I don't know what I would do if I actually saw one out. I'd probably have a cow, but Why couldn't he have taken allergy medicine? You know, Sasha, why couldn't the cats have gone outside the house? I don't think he likes cats, you know, and like there are people that don't like cats, which is you know, that's weird to me. You know, I'm just going to put it out there. And I get, you know, I mean, if you're allergic to an animal, it probably won't, you know, be your first choice of an animal, but I don't see how you can't like cats. Like, they're just so stealthy, and I don't know, they're beautiful creatures. Some of them are straight up assholes, but you know, and I get that too. And it is like absolute hatred, Lori. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. And you know, the saddest part is that Sebastian felt that. And he voiced that to several people, you know. Yeah, maybe an autistic child needs shorter spans of discipline. So, say, take the phone away for only work time. Well, that's true, Sasha. It's dependent upon the child, right? It's just like a 2-year-old. You're not going to put them in an hour timeout. I mean, again, what is that going to teach them, or what is that going to do? You know, it's overkill, you know, in my opinion. You know, and you have to kind of craft it to the kid, and you want it to make an impact, right? Because you don't want to have to keep on disciplining, right? Because that's frustrating for both the parent and the child, in my opinion. But when it comes to the point of being a vindictive step parent and being hateful and rude to the child because you don't like them, and constantly getting them in trouble for any little thing they do, you know, it's like, can they even fucking breathe without you, you know, doing something to them, yelling at them, you know? No doubt in my mind that poor Sebastian walked on eggshells at that house. He looked like he was walking on eggshells at dinner. And that was supposed to be a fun night at the Texas Roadhouse, you know? I mean, oh, wild animal baby, that's so cute. I think all animals are cool and necessary, you know what I mean? Like, some of them I wouldn't have as a pet, obviously, but that is so true, SI officer. Otherwise, you lose those boundaries and you lose your own identity. You lose your own identity. I know that's true for a fact. I know that by experience. I know that's true for a fact. When you let your own morals and values be taken away by someone else, when they steal your essence away from you because they've broken you down to that level, you do have to find who you actually were before you were with that person. Absolutely. And it takes years. It takes years. And that's if you can even get over some of the stuff that they put you through. That's if you can stop screaming in the middle of the night and waking up in a cold sweat or crying. Lori says, I pretty much just talk to my kids when they did something wrong or just not right. They always listened and corrected whatever it was. I have 2 great kids. Lori, that's so well said. And here's the thing about kids. They love their parents unconditionally. It's really sad when that love is not reciprocated. And I agree with you, where if you reason with your children and you speak to them in a language that they can understand, that they are going to want to please their parents, right? Because children seek approval from their parents. Also, something to consider is that parents need to understand that children model behavior from them. So if your child is having problems, you need to look in the mirror. You need to look in the mirror. You need to see what's going on in the household. You need to say, is there something between the parents? Are the parents arguing all the time? Is one parent being abused? Is there physical, mental, emotional, anything like that? It's all abusive, right? Is there power and control dynamic that's off in the family? These are so important to look at, right? Because everyone that saw Chris Proudfoot in the first interview with Duchess said, oh, he's a control freak. Anybody that saw him in the Holly Thompson interview pegged him as a control freak. You can tell. You can just look at them and see it. Bless says there has been no official LE advocating for Sebastian during this whole case. In my opinion, it's only happening on social media. I agree with that. And, you know, I feel like the law enforcement officers were advocating instead for Chris and Katie. What they must be going through, what they must be feeling. Oh, boo freaking who to them. I don't feel sorry for them when their child's missing unless they had nothing to do with it. In my opinion, they had something to do with it. Hey, Cinderella, good to see you. Welcome in, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm just jabbering away. Hey, Kelly Holcomb, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank God for him. But Bless says, if there was a missing child in my county, our sheriff would be a consistent voice and TV presence for that child. Why isn't Sheriff Kratic being questioned by the media? I mean, he's really only done a couple of interviews with Nick Barris that I know of. And then one, I think, was Caitlin Quisenberry. So, hey, Cake Spoo, good to see you. Yeah, well, and see, that's it, Cinderella. Excuse me. Cinderella says Sebastian was supposed to care for the snakes. One snake is a handful. He set Sebastian up to fail. And that is something that I agree with 100%. And it's not even just with the snakes, you know, it's like everything. Set him up for failure. You know, it's amazing to me what someone can do when they have the confidence to do it. And we're talking about children who are still forming who they are, the view of themselves. They're dealing with changes in their body. So, you know, of course, that is an awkward time for all of us. And for someone to constantly be on your ass, on your ass, on your ass, and never letting you make a mistake and say, that's okay. That's all right. Let's do it again. Right? Let's try again. It's sick. It's twisted. And, you know, it doesn't help the situation. It actually causes someone to have a lower self-worth, lower confidence level. And so some people might even shut down at that point and not want to deal with it, right? They might not even want to try anymore. That's why we have people who are so depressed, who have such bad anxiety, right? Mm. Oh, sorry. Tina girl, I do remember Smiley asking CP why not give Sebastian's snake to Seth, and then CP says he wouldn't want to take care of all 30 snakes. Like, why did he have to take all of them? Right? Yeah, that was like such a jerk comment, in my opinion, by CP. Right? Because yeah, that's not what Smiley was asking. Smiley was, in my opinion, saying like, oh, that's too bad, you know, he really loved the snake, right? And that was his favorite snake, and, you know, loved Brownie. But so why couldn't he just have gone to his dad's, you know, and then that way he could see him on the, you know, every other weekend or something like that. And then, you know, CP's like, oh, Seth wouldn't want to take 30 snakes. Like, you jerk. That's not what we're talking about, the one that Sebastian liked, not your 30 snakes, right? But again, it's almost like he can't wrap his mind around. It's weird. Yeah, absolutely. Cake Spoo says, I'm sorry, but if my child was missing, I wouldn't care what get gets put up in public, in the public forums, if it helped my child. And I agree with that. I mean, I think that they should be more upset with some of the things that they were putting out about Sebastian. Nobody said disparaging comments about Sebastian, in my opinion, except for when it came to Chris and Katie. And there was another horrible interrogation that I watched where, the father of this child, he was saying things like that about his child, except for he was saying things like, well, he liked to eat his own feces and liked to, to do that, smear it everywhere, da 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 da. Well, it was later found out that was because he was making him do that, not because he chose to. It's disgusting, but this evil exists there, guys. It does. And I don't give a shit who wants to talk about it and think that is funny or, stupid on my part. I think it's disgusting, evil, and I don't appreciate it. Hey, momming it up. Good to see you. And I don't want no part of it. I don't believe that children should be treated that way. I think they should be loved and cherished the way they deserve to. They didn't ask to be here. Show Poodle says, SI officer, I think he thought it was easy money, but breeding snakes is not that easy. Plus, to breed your own snake colony of rats and mice is stinky. He could never, in my opinion, or like you said, he lied. Yeah, number one, a narcissist that turns into a monster, little Miss Sharon, exactly. And two, I'm leaning into your theory, in my opinion, Show Poodles. I hear what you guys are saying, Well, that's a big one too. Sasha says one good parent, one bad parent equals narcissistic abandonment aids this. Yeah. And that's another thing, these narcissists are very much broken, and very much a fragile little flower, right? They're always the perpetual victim. It's always poor me. They never had any involvement. They can't take responsibility for their part in things, that sort of thing. I agree there too. Carla says, apple don't fall far from the tree. Katie's mom is SOCP, I'm sure, is a pedo. And KP is probably a SO as well. Is that why Sebastian is missing, afraid of prison? You're going anyway. Yeah, and that is not lost on me, Carla. It is not. I wish that I had more concrete proof of what I've gathered on that, and I would absolutely discuss it. Because I agree. Wait, what says, I think CP has a diet on Cruella from way back. Oh, dirt, maybe dirt. Okay, has dirt on Cruella from way back. In my honest opinion, she allowed things evil even while he was small. Learned how to manipulate young. In my honest opinion, he got by with whatever he wanted. Also, in your opinion, I agree with that completely. And that's where, the privilege aspect comes into this, right? Because he's never had to be held accountable. Even when it came to his exes saying, enough is enough, I'm leaving. I don't want this anymore. This is not for me. You're not going to treat me this way. And what does he do? He gets his whole family, and then they pay people to go off and do things to their car and scare the crap out of them and, make them feel like they can't come forward. Right? Grady Judd is the shit, Sasha. He is. If we had all sheriffs like him, we'd be in better shape. Hey, Holly S., good to see you. We would be in better shape. It is interesting that they took Faith there. It is. And I think a lot of it was to jab at the public, too. I really do. I really do. They don't like it that we talk about the fact that, his mother took all the kids besides Sebastian and left him out. Who does that? How could you even do something like that? I got you. Wait, what? How could you even do something like that? That's sickening. Like, honestly, I would feel like the biggest scumbag on the planet if I took certain kids, cherry picked the kids I wanted to take in the family and left out one of the kids as a grandparent. You know, I don't have any grandchildren, but just thinking about that, even as an auntie, even as anything. Oh, I'm going to cherry pick these kids to come. This one's not allowed. Does that make you feel good, Kathy? That's disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. But no, what do? Oh, we're taking faith here. You know. Yeah, I think he's just as cruel. I think they're both cruel. Well, that's it too. Wait, what says as for KK, trash meets trash. That's why they can even be in the same place, equal in depravity, in my opinion. I mean, that's my whole thing too, because I would be the first one to say, I think that this person's being controlled by, you know, CP. I do believe that, right? I believe that there's an element of control. I think there's probably a power struggle in between, because I think that Katie has her own set of issues, in my opinion. But I agree with you when it appears that Chris has met his match in Katie. She's just like him, right? Because she's willing to do exactly what he does. She's willing to ride with him and do it. She's willing to film it, you know, live on Facebook. Anybody that's willing to do that, especially when the other person has kids, like, again, I wouldn't want my stepchild to look at me and be like, why would you do that to my mama? You know, that has to give that child such a negative view right off the bat. But who cares what little Faith feels, right? Who cares what she feels? It's sick. Oh no, couponing, you're having technical difficulties. Never gets easier to think of him getting rid of Sebastian's pets. It's not. That's so right, Holly S. It's just another thing to consider in the history, right? It's another thing that Sebastian loved. It's another reason to hurt him. Not just hurt him a little bit, hurt him where it hurts, right? Get him where it hurts. Only an evil person does that. Because even when somebody hurts you, you don't want to go and hurt them, right? I mean, you might be upset with them, you know, but you're not, you know, most people don't have that vindictive nature about them. It's like they're more hurt that they were hurt by that other person rather than to go seek out revenge. We don't have that here, you know. Yeah, Sebastian just wanted one freaking snake and CP had to F it all up. 100% Holly S. And it's so messed up. It is so messed up. Oh, breeding snakes are kept in tubs and weighed every day. Wow. That's interesting, show poodles. The snakes grow, but in my opinion, what we're going to do with some are getting big almost times... Yeah, bigger than the tanks, 4 times bigger than, or I'm sorry, some are getting big, almost time for bigger tanks. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I would think that they would grow as large as wherever their environment. I've heard that they grow to the environment they're in, but then, you know, you'll have to get a bigger area and like, I can't imagine. It's fun though. If that's something that someone enjoys in the family though, you try to, you know, especially when it's your kids, you try to accommodate that. And, you know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially if it's a you know, non-medication, you know, driven release for anxiety. I mean, that's lovely. It's, you know, and animals do that for people. I really believe that, you know. Sasha says it's just bizarre and typically unheard of unless it's a shop and they don't even have that many. The piano thing. Yes, exactly. The muzzling going on in this case is ridiculous. Please, blessed. I feel that. I feel that. Or the threats, don't talk about it. Don't talk about my truck. Don't talk about this. Well, those are elements in the case that are very important. Very important. Oh, really? Oh, no. So you got to be scared of lizards in Arizona. I love my kitties. Yes. And my late greyhound. Yes. See, Taylor, I'm totally about cats and dogs. I really do. I love them. They're great companions and just sweet. And, I've known some really funny cats who actually act like a dog sometimes. Lori says, lady, we have a bunch of little lizards here too. They eat the ants. Get rid of, uh, yes, yeah. Get rid of the ants and the lizards will find a new deck to hang out on. Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny. I always see them like after it rains, it seems like they're out a lot and like their little, I don't know what you would call it, but it's like their neck, it's like they blow out and in and out and in, and they're so little. They're cute. They're so cute. And the frogs like to come out too after it rains. So like if I go out to the pool after it's been raining for the day and then like I go out at night, I always see them around, and they do love to eat the ants, I've noticed. Because some of those flying ants come around, after it rains, and then they'll be like over there eating them. It's so cute. Rainbow chameleons are so pretty, SI officer. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, and if you never give a kid anything, it's like you can't, there's no incentive. But yeah, it's just like not being vindictive about it either. So Kathy, I don't like spiders and snakes and that what it takes slowly. Aw, Kathy, that's so cute. No complimentary roles, Sasha. Oh my gosh. Well, and it's even like, even if she let him have whatever, like, why can't he just have whatever he wants? Like, I don't understand it. To me, a growing boy, let him eat, Now, if he eats to the point, so sometimes it's not healthy, right? You don't want them to be unhealthy, but I mean, what's the big deal in letting the kid eat? I just don't understand that. I didn't like that. I didn't like her rummaging for snacks comment. I didn't like his 15 in snacks comment. That's weird too. Everybody likes snacks. Last time I checked, there's not anybody from the age of 100 down that doesn't like snacks. If you live on this planet and you're still, kicking, you like snacks. So the 15 in snacks thing was like, okay, because he's 15 in snacks. Like, what does that even mean? And she's very strange. Katie's a weird one. She says very weird things as if people understand what she's talking about, almost like it's an inside thing or whatever. We went to the arcade because games. It's like, what is that? Because games. I got him some cheese because cheese. What? Like, I mean, maybe that's just the way she talks. SI officer says, where was he so hurt in life that he does this and thinks that it's acceptable? Although we know the behaviors of a narcissist is the reason why. But yeah, go deeper. Yeah. So I think a lot of it has to do with the parents' divorce, right? I don't know how much he actually was around his dad or if his mother used him as a pawn, right? It's very damaging to kids. It really is. It really is. And then again, Chrissy can do no wrong. Oh, he didn't mean to, light a firecracker and blow the animal up. Just saying some weird stuff. I mean, look at Jeffrey Dahmer's dad. He knew Jeffrey Dahmer was messing with, animal bones and calling them fiddlesticks. Like, I'm sorry, I would take my child for therapy immediately. There'd be no questions asked. I wouldn't say, oh, that's cute. I would say, oh boy, that's disturbing. Oh, okay, well, what happened? Again, go look in the mirror. Something messed up in the house, right? Something. These children aren't just born like, you're like holding this child and it's like a beautiful child that just entered the world and, this child isn't diabolical. Come on, in my opinion. Holly S says, in my opinion, CP and KP didn't want to deal with Sebastian on holidays or visits. In my opinion, they wanted to be done. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I agree with that. I thought he was done. Sorry. Okay, sorry guys. I think he heard something outside. I told him go be a good boy and lay down, and he barked at me. He's like, "Wow." Kathy says, in my opinion, EC should at least do one interview a month. It wouldn't hurt him. Yeah, I don't see what the deal is. You know, it's not like when you know he goes up there, people are like throwing tomatoes at him and like, you know, F you, Kratic. You know, like they listen, they're asking questions. People want to get down to the bottom of it, right? They want the truth. That's it. There's no reason to be hateful about it, in my opinion. It's quite ridiculous. It's a little overdone. And again, he's not the victim. Sebastian's the one that's missing. I don't feel sorry for Kratic. I think he's being a big old baby. Wait, what? Says exactly 100%. Holly S. That's why I truly believe KK had a babysitter for her to rip and run around. I mean, I wonder about it too. Because, you know, it seems like there was tension in the house. So let's just put it out there, you know, talking about the family dynamic. Chris was gone at the beginning of February. Many of us speculate, myself included, that CPS said, Chris, since you're leaving, we'll allow Sebastian to stay in the home, but only because you're leaving, right? But then Sebastian goes to his dad's every other weekend. But Chris still didn't come home. So, in my opinion, being a grown adult who has been married before, you know, who's had, I mean, I have been in a relationship where my significant other has been working out of town, even, right? When he's not coming home, probably something to do with you and him, not just your, you know, him and your child. Because if it, you know, he's madly in love with you, he's going to come home on the weekends. Let's be honest, you know. And you know, I know we have some guys that listen in here, so please chime in. But, you know, spend with you. If he doesn't want to spend time with you, you're going to know it because he's not going to be spending time with you. You know, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't make me feel good to say something like that. But don't sit here and tell me that it was only Sebastian, that Sebastian was the problem. Otherwise, Chris's ass would have been home. He would have been home to see Katie when Sebastian wasn't there. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Carla says, well, it tells what kind of mother Kathy Bowersox is when you look at Chris. He has no manners, he doesn't respect women, and he doesn't know how to love, is a complete asshole. I agree with that, Carla, and he doesn't make meaningful long-term connections with anyone, in my opinion. It's difficult for him to do that. You know, many, many times, these horrible, odd, and, you know, whatever peculiar, out of the normal behaviors are behaviors of a damaged person, right? Because they're doing that as a defense mechanism so they don't get hurt again. And I'm not trying to give them an out or give them a free pass or say, oh, let's feel sorry for them over this. No, I'm just simply saying that that's how it works, typically. especially with a narcissist. They are so broken themselves. They're so damaged because someone hurt their ego so badly that they've never recovered from it. So it's like, I'm going to hurt everybody in my path before they hurt me. Well, good luck with that. You'll never have a meaningful relationship, mister. I've been married 5 times by the time I'm 40. Cinderella says, I'm sure it was never good enough no matter how he did things. I agree, Cinderella, and that's what's so sad. You know, it's so sad. Because again, Sebastian's forming confidence. He's learning his way in the world. He's learning his independence. And that's very difficult when you have someone breathing down your neck, when you're always in trouble, or when you're always told that you're not good enough and nothing you do, like you said, is ever good enough. It's extremely hard to feel like you're doing, you know, anything right at that point. I've never heard that from anyone. Wait, what? That's really a good point. Not one credible person for the peas or the socks. No one can say, oh no, KK was a wonderful person / mom. No. I know they brought out that one lady that was a fuzzy or whatever. The reason why I know what a fuzzy is, by the way, or a furry convention, is because I was a sales manager at a hotel and they were holding a furry convention in town. And when I got their file, everyone was like, just know that these people are going to stink to high heaven. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, smell bad? I'm like, what the heck is a furry anyway? Well, it's people who wear these furry costumes and they have weird, you know, sex proclivities, right? And they're strange people, but because they're wearing like those furry costumes, like they sweat a lot in them and they stink really bad. And so like it literally stunk up the entire hotel. And we had banquet rooms and we had meeting rooms and we had the whole 9 yards there. The whole place stunk like nasty, sweaty, furry people. And God only knows what the hell they were doing when they were behind their closed doors. I didn't care as long as they paid their bill. But yeah, so she was one of those people. So I find it interesting that you use the word credible, because I would have to second that motion. Cinderella says, I have a bearded dragon and he's extremely spoiled, and it's extremely spoiled or very spoiled. That's hilarious. That's how my brother was with his list. I mean, he took really good care of him. And he's like, she needs a friend or whatever. I forget what, like, I don't even know. I think the girl's name was Stewie. I have no idea, but he got her a girlfriend. It was hilarious. It was funny watching them do the dance. Cinderella says they were very cool, but when they poop, OMG. Yeah, I know, guys, and that's the thing, you know. Alia says, I never heard of a family like this in my life. Well, and you know, I was reluctant to say anything about Katie going off, you know, to the military. But I would have to agree, it seems like she wanted out of her situation. You know, and I hate to say that, you know, maybe she didn't want anything to do with motherhood. I don't know. I can't speak for her, but you know, her actions are kind of proving that to be true rather than false. Holly S says, I don't think they even saw Sebastian as part of their family. And that's what's terrible. You know, they took his different ability, right? And they used it against him, in my opinion. I think that too. It was like, oh, he's not a part of who we are. Well, you know, he's a better person than any of yous, in my opinion. You know? I wonder this too. Bo says, I wonder if Faith is always asking them, so where is Sebastian? Is he ever coming back? I wish Nina would talk again. Maybe share if Faith has heard anything new. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult, you know, because she's so little. I just wouldn't want to, You know, it's so hard, Bo. It's like, it's so hard, especially because, you know, we hate to make little Faith feel like she's in the middle, which I'm sure she already feels that way. And I think that she probably knows that, you know. And it's like, because children see themselves as an extension of their parents kind of thing, I would just hate to like harm her self-esteem by saying something negative about her daddy or her mommy. You know what I mean? So that's the hardest part. And it's really difficult because you wouldn't want her to internalize something that was said about her dad, even though she probably understands the type of person he is. You know, I would just hate that for her little self-esteem and her self-worth. You know, it really breaks my heart, guys. It really breaks my heart. It's sad. It's sad. Little Miss Sharon CP and KP equally yoked, 100%. 100%. You know, and I didn't come to that conclusion lightly either. I really didn't. I thought over it. I analyzed their actions, their words. Yeah, she definitely loves to be the one giggling in the background where barely anybody can hear her. Oh yeah, when all of the crap is going down. She loves it. Katie's the type of person who loves watching the shit hit the fan. She loves it. Some people don't want anything to do with that, but she loves it. Exactly, Tina girl. And you know what it is? That's a poison that you're poisoning yourself with when you hold anger, in my opinion. Tina girl says, I don't like to hold anger about anything. It doesn't feel good to me to be mad. No, it doesn't. And you know, what is being mad going to do if you take no action? You know, if you don't try to find a solution, whatever that, you know, whatever solution works best, you know, personally for whatever situation you're dealing with, you know, is better than sitting there being mad, right? Because that does nothing, you know. And honestly, Tina girl, that is so well said, because nobody really cares if we're mad. You know what I mean? We can get as mad as we want. You know what I mean? Get mad, do it. You know, get as mad as you want. Ain't nobody, those people don't care. You know what I mean? That's your own personal feelings. But you know, you get mad, get motivated, find a solution. You know. But to sit there and just be mad, no, I don't like it either. I don't. I would rather go out into the community and make somebody's day, make them smile. You know what I mean? Like, I see somebody that is somebody that's maybe, you know, a little bit grumpy, or they, you know, something like that. I try to make them smile intentionally, you know, and you'd be surprised that if you give them a big grin and, you know, you smile at them, you'll probably get a smile back. So to me, that's what makes me feel good. You know, but being mad, yeah, I hate that emotion. That's the worst one, right? But a lot of it comes from sadness or hurt or fear, you know. And Kathy says, honestly, my dad's mom was like CB. She had 4 different sets of grandkids, but only claimed and did things for 2 sets. Oh, caused lots of hurt to me and my sisters. I'm so sorry, Kathy. That's terrible. And you're such a good person, you know. I love having you in the chat. I hate hearing that. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I had a mother-in-law like CP. His mom. I married CP and had a mother-in-law like his mom. That's all I'll say about that. God rest her soul. And Bless says, one question for Sheriff Kratic. McBee, please. Previous sheriff told PI of Sebastian did not walk out of that front door of the house. What happened to him? Yeah. And I mean, that's the big thing too. You know, if there's no evidence of him leaving the neighborhood, leaving his house, any of that, then there has to be something else that happened during the course of the night, from 7 o'clock when they pulled into the garage, right? Assuming he made it home, right? And then there's an even smaller window of time from them driving from the roadhouse to their house, because it's about 15 minutes, you know, with no stops. So I agree. there's something. And now, you know, I have a close friend of mine that brings up the sealed indictments, and that very well could be something, you know. They do have the frilly neck lizards. Little Miss Sharon. I wonder if they play with Faith after they get home or talk like her, like they didn't do with Sebastian. Well, and you know, it's so sad because I want her to be treated well. You know what I mean? I don't want her to be scared. But it does break my heart for Sebastian. It does, Carla. It does. It breaks my heart so bad. Stealing the Brussels sprouts, eating them raw. Eating raw Brussels sprouts. Oh. SA officer hurting animals in childhood. Psychopath leaves down the crime path, in my opinion. Absolutely. I mean, it's very strange, right? I mean, even that school shooter, it was Ethan Crumbly, right? They found out that he was torturing that little baby bird. And I don't know if you guys saw that video during the trial. It was absolutely disturbing. He absolutely got off on hurting a little baby bird, a little animal. I would be terrified if my child was acting that way. I wouldn't know what to do. I would not know what to do besides get them some help immediately. It wouldn't even be a second thought. It doesn't matter. Whatever I have to do, I don't care. I'm going to help my child, you know? But you have to look at what's happened to them, right? Because what if something really horrible happened to them? What if something horrible is happening to them at that moment? So you have to look at yourself. You have to look at the family dynamics involved. You have to say, why is my child acting out like this? Why is my child showing violence this way? Are they learning it from someplace? Because I guarantee you, it's modeled behavior. It's something that's manifested because of something else that's happened to them, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with the burner phone. It's too easy, right? Yeah, he did. Little Miss Sharon. Jeffrey Dahmer's dad took him to pick up a roadkill when he was a kid. So, ... Oh, yeah. His dad was like right there, like, oh. And then he wanted him to be called Jeff, too. Remember when he came out and talked? I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, but I mean, worms on a hook and stuff. I mean, you have to kind of, there's some stuff that's understandable. And, also, I mean, it could be like traumatic for a kid to see something like, say, even something on the Discovery Channel, right? Like, it could be kind of disturbing for a child to watch, like, other animals attacking another animal. But, that's why you're there to explain it to them. Like, this is what happens in nature. And, this is what sets us apart from animals, is that we don't just go off and do things like that, right? We have compassion. We don't have these animalistic urges, right? And if you do have those, then let's talk about it, right? But again, people typically in these situations and these dynamics, they don't look at themselves. They're study blaming their kids. It's like, oh yeah, this one has ADHD and this one has this wrong. And it's like Malaya, Brooks Murray with little Jack and Lily. Oh, they were really behind in school. Well, it's because you weren't sending them every day. I mean, hello? It's not their fault. They're not going to school every day and they're behind. It's because they're not going to school every day that they're behind. I mean, duh. Bab says, in my opinion, no one is born cruel, mean, untrusting, racist, and hate-filled. Those are learned behaviors, just like kindness, care, and empathy. I agree, Babs. I agree. And, the reason I think that is because you can see it when somebody is brought up in an environment where they can trust, where they can feel safe, right? Where they're not treated in a cruel manner. But then you see people who are brought up or brought up to hate people because of the color of their skin or the religion that they have or because of the way they look, just because of the way they look. Well, I don't like the way that person looks. Well, look at Chris Watts. He's a good looking guy. He was a family annihilator. just saying, people thought Ted Bundy was a nice looking guy too, a trusting guy, oh, can you help me with my car? Can you help me find my, dog or whatever? Yeah, that's how those people, so you can't just judge a book by its cover. You can't just be like, oh, that person's a good looking person, so they're kind, trustworthy, and, whatever. It doesn't work that way. I agree, Babs. I agree. And yeah, little kids don't grow up or don't come, you could take like even a 1 or 2 year old and they're not going to have that kind of cruelty and hate and malice in their heart. They're not, they're innocent until someone, shows them the way not to be. It's sad. It's just like little children who get involved in a gang and they're 13 years old, they're young kids. They're impressionable. They want to be accepted. It's the worst thing that they could possibly do. A lot of times they're born into that kind of shit. It's awful. I'll say, a good 70%. They don't deserve that. They deserve to have a good environment where they can feel safe, good education, food, all of the things. And they're going to come out all right. Well, none of us are going to come out perfect, but you're going to come out better off than, a family where the only meals that you get are at school. The only time that, you're in a clean environment is when you're at school. But the minute that you walk in your door, you're met by a stench of, shit and piss. Nobody's going to be okay. Nobody would. Roaches crawling all over the place. Gross. Having to go to school stinking because your parents don't wash your clothes, And I'm going to tell you what, I know people might say that I'm being petty and, nitpicking, but that shirt that Sebastian's wearing is wrinkled like it came right out of the damn laundry basket. Wrinkled up. And he's also has a bruise on his neck where he looked like he was grabbed. His shirt's wrinkled. Like it was balled up. Is that how the military taught you, Katie and Chris? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because my mother was raised by my grandfather who was in the Navy, and she used to iron friggin' jeans. She'd iron the damn curtains before she put them up. And if I wore a wrinkled ass shirt like that, she would, oh God, I never hear the end of it. That's the slob that goes out like that, Bab says, if a man has a wife and loves, respects, and wants her, he'd be with her as much as he could. I agree. I'm a woman. I don't perceive, I don't pretend to know how a man would feel or anything like that. But, having been married, having dated, right, people, it's like men don't really do the things that they don't want to do. Okay. It's that simple. If they want to be with you and talk to you, they're going to. If they don't, they're not going to. Period. That's it. It's not to hurt. It's not to be mean. I don't wish that for anybody, because guess what? That hurts. That hurts bad. But it's about having enough self-respect to recognize that too, and then look and say, hey, this is not me and my kid. This is his problem, not our problem. But again, Babs, well said. If a man has a wife and loves and respects and wants to be with her, He will be. He will be. You know? Kelly has 15 grandkids. But I adopted 5 children. We have 7 and raising one of our grandsons who has autism. Well, Kelly, that's wonderful. And they're lucky to have you, and some of these kids, it's so sad. Yes, Lori, I agree. And it's so sad, because you just think like there's so many people out there that would take these kids in a heartbeat. But I think the saddest thing in the world is knowing that Sebastian had a loving, caring father who was preparing to take him, have him live there, and co-parent with Katie on the flip side. Somehow that wasn't good enough, in my opinion. I think Chris has daddy issues. Yes, Cinderella. And I think his mother is an issue. I'm sure he was, and again, going back, I'm sure he was told, your father's this, your father's that, nah, 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 nah. And Chris internalized it from a very young age. Your dad's this way, so he looks at himself that way. Dime store psychology from Lady Freedom. Just the way I see it. And that goes for a woman too. Yeah, that goes for a woman too. Same as a woman. If she loves, respects, and wants to be with her husband, she will do as much as she can and be there as much as she can, right? Yeah, same thing. I mean, because if I was working out of town, honestly, and I'm very much of like, I like to be at home, I like to sleep in my own bed, things like that. But if you're working and you're out of town, I get that, no fault in it. Anything, no shame in the game. I get it. You got to work. But I would want to come home and be with my family. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I'm here to tell you that if I'm being mistreated, especially nowadays, I ain't going to be anywhere where I'm being mistreated. You're not doing that to me. You're not going to hurt me on purpose and me come back and be like, okay, do it again. No way. Bye. See you later. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. SI officer says he stays distant because he does not want to get hurt. Like I said, something somewhere deeply, something happened. And I'm curious, just making an observation. Yeah, I do. I believe it could have been the divorce. I do. Yeah. Yeah. When you have an absent parent, it's difficult for the child, and then even so, especially if there's parental alienation, the child's going to internalize it. And the same goes for if you're trying to have to explain to a child why their parent is the way that they are. It's tough, You have to really choose your words because you don't want the child to feel bad about themselves, right? It's detrimental to them to hear bad things about either parent, in my opinion, my experience. Kelly Holcomb says we have 2 bio and adopted 5, so total 7. Yeah, that's wonderful, Kelly. And it is amazing. It is amazing, and they need people out there who are truly caring and loving towards these kids. It's got to be tough raising, kids, especially kids who come from the system, right? The system is obviously broken. No 2 ways about it. It's so sad. It's so sad, and some people just want to take these kids in because they're like, oh, I get a paycheck for them and blah, 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 and not really even take care of them. We look at the Turpin kids, and I mean, some of those kids came from such a horrific experience only to go into the system and be exploited further by the foster parents. It's absolutely sick. Yeah. And Kelly, when people have real issues and stuff like that, love, care, compassion, it goes a long way. It's about showing them that they're safe, right? I mean, it's just like, if you think about how you feel after you've been betrayed, or how you feel after, if you do know what it feels like to have somebody abuse you in any type of way. Again, it could really mess with who you are, and healing from that is difficult. A safe place is the first thing that's needed, in my opinion. SI officer says, in my opinion, Babs to hurt and control KP. It seems to be what he does, just like his daughter Nina. However, Mrs. B hated Sebastian for some reason. We know what she called him. Also, the trouble, Sebastian. Wow. And, let's not forget that a narcissist will blame others, right? So they are very much incapable of empathizing in a situation. They're so selfish. They don't have the capacity, right? So with that being said, there are situations where if someone is SA'd in the family, people might blame the victim and say, why did you allow for that to happen to you? Why were you wearing this? Any reason. And they'll say that they're embarrassed of the victim, instead of saying that sick, twisted individual had no right to do what they did, and it's not your fault. But instead, they make it the victim's fault, in my opinion. And sometimes, like we see in poor little Madeline Soto's case, her mother Jen allowing for it, turning in the other way, saying, oh well. Tina Girl says nothing will ever happen if the FBI doesn't take over. I fear that. Yeah, I fear that. I love that. Kathy says, lady, it's okay. So she just taught me how to be strong and independent, also overly hard-headed. Amen. Kathy, I love that. That's great. And that's the thing. If whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? Because we're still here, right? We survived. You survived it. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And the best part is like coming to terms with, like, they're the ones that are sick and twisted. They're the ones that did wrong, not you. You know what I mean? And knowing that is so important, especially because when you're so broken down by this person, it can really get to the point. Hey, James Coover. It could really get to the point where it could take its toll on you, and you can start believing that kind of crap, and they're lying to you. They're just trying to make you feel as bad as they do. It says more about who they are than it does about who you are. It shows that they're an insecure, person. James says, I have heard something about KP and CP have taken faith and disappeared. Does anyone know this is true? Oh, I have not heard that, James. No, I've not heard that. And if anyone has eyes on them to make sure this doesn't happen, I sure hope not. Now, I did hear that people were like, well, Florida, is a place where obviously they could probably skip if they, wanted to. But no, I have not heard that, James. I pray to God that's not true. I sure hope not. Hey, Anna Marie, good to see you. Thank you for being here. James, they will be protecting that little girl. She has Indian blood. Don't think for a minute that her people are not watching. Carla, that's a good point. That's a good point. I heard there is a PI that follows them even to Disney. Ooh. I didn't know that. Because in my opinion, I could see them doing that and taking faith and disappearing. And when I heard that it had happened, I prayed to God it wasn't true. Yeah, and you know, who knows? People might even try to say a lot of stuff, but I don't believe that. I mean, just I've heard more about them having eyes on them than that they don't. So let's just put it that way. Now, of course, I think, you know, to err on the side of caution is smart. Especially when there's a child involved. Let's be honest, we've seen plenty of cases. Josh Powell, for example, that creep, you know, he blew the kids up in the house and the CPS worker was locked out. And then you have the dumbass dispatcher like, I don't know what's going on. And the CPS worker is like telling him in plain English. And that was after he disappeared his wife, who also, you know, she has never been found. She's never been found. She was enduring a you know, SEX abuse from her father-in-law, very bad. I mean, where he was videotaping her, he's an underwear sniffer, you know, and, you know, we'll just say, don't trust a panty sniffer. You know, talk about patterns in true crime. And Chopoodle says his shirts are so wrinkled in the pics with his teachers. No wonder he calls Seth for clothes for his school pictures. I know, Show Poodles, and that's the thing. Like, it does bother me because, like, just because I understand, like, coming from a military family, how things are, like, it's instilled in them. So you instill those morals and values, and you know, and tendencies into the kids and things like that, you know. And I noticed that right off the bat, like it looked like that shirt was pulled from the laundry hamper. You know, it just does. And then, you know, oh, Sebastian was allergic to deodorant. Well, were you putting clean clothes on him? Because that looks wrinkled as shit. Chopoodle says, and eventually wrinkled clothes at school did not embarrass KP at all. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And this is a military woman, right? And so you would think that she would have that, just, especially with her being in as long as she was, that you would just think that that would be a standard that would be upheld. But it's not. It's like there were no standards, you know? And sometimes those standards can be rigid, and I understand that. And maybe that's something that she didn't, you know, want, I guess. I don't know. But again, you know, because when I got older, of course, I would tease my mom. I'd be like, you use enough bleach in here? I mean, geez, this is enough to, like, you know. Good to see you, Laura Arnold. Thanks for being here. James says, I had looked into special schools in Alaska and found one in Anchorage that actually takes runaways and put distance between family in order to help them with growing. And the ages were from 13 to 17. James, and see, that's one thing that I just can't shake. You know what I mean? That's part of my theory as well. You know, the after what happened, right? Because obviously you all know I'm very much interested in the 3 a.m. car, the 3 a.m. lights video, all of that. But you know, what happened to Sebastian next? What next, right? That's always my big question mark. What next? In my theories, in my brain when I think about this stuff, because yeah, once we figure out how Sebastian got out of the house, the next step is always going to be naturally, okay, now where is he, right? We figured out the how, but now we need to figure out the where. And I think we know what the why was even. You know, so yeah, I mean, that's one thing that gives me hope, is that maybe they do have him somewhere like that, you know. The secrecy behind these schools is what makes me think that it could be believable, right? There could be a high probability of it. anything is possible, but I like to look at what's probable. Cinderella says, I heard last night she was home. No offense, Hope. My hearsay is what it is. No, yeah, no. I mean, hey, we're all speculating. You know what I mean? We're all speculating. So, you know, it's all fair game. But and just be respectful, of course, guys. I mean, I hope, you know, I hope that goes without saying. But yeah, I do think, I don't think that they're going to run off with Faith. I don't. As a matter of fact, they wouldn't dare cross Mama like that. You know what I mean? You guys ever heard of the golden child complex, right? You got the scapegoated child. Hey, Miss Anne, you know, you hear about the scapegoated child. You hear about the golden child. You hear about all of the different children and the dynamics in a household and things like that. And, you know, Faith has that golden child status, in my opinion. And, you know, that's what's keeping her safe. That's all I can ask for, you know, because I just hate to think of her, you know, that poor little girl feeling anything but loved and safe, you know. It's totally awful. Yeah, James says, and the grandparents took off to Alaska, kind of like magic trick being pulled off while you keep your eyes on one hand and the other is pulling the rabbit out. And I feel that just might have been it. Yeah, James, I hear you. It's the sleight of hand, right? It's the illusion where, you know, you're paying attention to one thing when really something else is going on. And I completely understand that, you know. It's the way that pickpocketers can get away with, you know, stealing someone's wallet right from their back pocket. You know, tap them on the shoulder, they look on the other side and somebody grabs up their wallet, you know, because their attention is, you know, on their shoulder where they were tapped, you know. I actually watched a couple of, I don't know if it was like a show or a documentary on something like that, but that's how, you know, one of the criminals was saying that they got away with doing something like that, you know. Hey, Adam Forever 21, James Coover, exactly. I also think the ride was hoaxed up with a different cam footage. Yes, as apparently I'm not the golden child. Oh, little Miss Sharon, I completely understand. You know, well, and when you're a truth teller, when you're one of the truth tellers of the family, you're never well received, right? As a child, especially if you say things that you're not supposed to and, you know, tell things that you're not supposed to, you know, people will be like, quiet over there, kid. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's scary, right? Because I mean, I wonder about all of these CPS cases in these cases. You know, CPS involvement, and the kids all of a sudden disappear. You know, were they going to tell something? You know? So James Coover says, well, we was trying to keep our eyes on the main too. That is to blame, in my opinion. Excuse me, the other two snuck him to Alaska. You know, I wonder about that as well. And I know there's a lot of people out there that think that there is a connection to Alaska. You know, and there very well could be. So what's this with a body found in storage container in Oregon? Yes. Cinderella, apparently there was a body found in a storage unit. Apparently they lost the storage unit. Somebody bought it and was going through the bins. And I guess it was a black bin that had, you know, human remains in it, and absolutely terrible. Now they haven't identified anyone, so you know, as far as I'm concerned, but we do know that was a location where, you know, people were spotted in this case. So black sheep here, I hear that, Cinderella. I call myself that as well before, and you know, I think being the black sheep makes you special. So that's the way I look at it, you know. Lori says, oh, Cinderella, I heard that too. And, you know, I think that Sebastian was treated like a black sheep. I think that he wasn't, you know, told how special he actually is and how it's okay to be different and how it's actually, you know, a good thing, you know, because, you know, it used to be like God broke the mold, you know, but, you know, it's not, that's not a bad thing, you know. Carla says, me too, Cinderella. Ah, Lori says, I'm the only daughter. I have 3 brothers and I'm a daddy's girl. Yes, yes. Yeah. And, you know, I think dads and daughters have a special relationship. I think moms and sons do too. And that's why I was so surprised to see the dynamic between Katie and Sebastian played out, you know, especially the fact that it was only Katie and Sebastian, right? So you would think that if, you know, her husband was the only one that didn't like Sebastian, that, you know, there would be a different dynamic between the two of them. It ultimately showed that Katie obviously didn't like Sebastian either, right? Like he was feeling that, like he told his father. So that really solidified it, you know, watching that interaction between them, even though we couldn't hear what they were saying. So James says, I also believe the women in Oregon did see them all together. And of course, CP says no, that will never, that they never were there. But I just don't believe anything CP would say. If he says no, he wasn't, I would bet that he was. Yeah, sure, James. And I mean, I feel that. I do. I understand that completely because of the way that we've caught them in so many inconsistencies. You know, it's just like, you know, in the court of public opinion, we don't believe what they say. I was the only blonde, blue-eyed child, and the rest had dark hair. Carla, that's funny. Yeah, well, and I always took after my dad's side, and my brother and my sister took after my mom's side. So, you know, people would be like, "Oh, your brother and sister? Oh, yeah, okay, I see it now," but like not at first glance. So I feel that too. Yeah, a child needs that, Lori, you know, to build their confidence and to feel good about themselves, right? Because, like, it's almost dangerous to put a child out in a world today that is not confident. You know, you're almost like sending them out to the, you know, to the wolf pack and being like, good luck, you know what I mean? You know, I mean, everybody wants to keep their child as innocent as possible, but in this world, it's really, really difficult. You almost have to be so hyper vigilant when it comes to everything because they could be exposed to anything at any given point in time, right? It's really scary. Um, Aw. Anne, that's sweet. Anne says, I've come to the conclusion that I have a new family here on YouTube. Good, Anne. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very, 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 you have no idea how happy I am to hear that. I'm not going to answer my phone today if they call, only if it's someone from YouTube. That's so sweet, Anne. I love that. Well, you know we love you here, so. Yeah. Oh, Carla, and it feels like a family here on Ladies Channel. You guys are awesome. Yeah, I feel that too. I can't wait to talk to you guys. Or like when I'm off for a day, I'm like, you know, dang it. But I mean, I'm always trying to go down a rabbit hole or figure out what's going on with Sebastian, you know, and keep up with everything. I'm so bad about going on X though. Like that is that's always, and TikTok too, and TikTok too. Some of my friends will be like, yeah, I know that's right. But it's like, you know, yeah, I just have to be more familiar with it. Cinderella says, I love being the black sheep, left at 18, worked full, was still in high school, had my own apartment. When I was done with school, I went farther. Yeah, Cinderella, I was the same way, you know, like as soon as I was 18, I was so independent, ready to, you know, do my own thing. I had an apartment, everything. Yeah. Gigi, good to see you, Gigi. Thank you for being here. YouTube, little Miss Sharon, that's so cute. YouTube, bring Ann to wish her a beautiful day tomorrow. Well, we have something special planned, and I'm so sorry I haven't been able to give you a call, but I will tonight after my live because, of course, I'm working on something special for you for tomorrow. My storage is always an issue for me. Pretty soon it won't be. Carla says, I've been told recently I'm my uncle's child. His wife was 9 months pregnant and I'll pass, but they saved the baby. I look like his 2 girls older than me. Oh, that's so sweet, Carla. Aw. Little Miss Sharon. Lori says, Cinderella, I did also. Cinderella says, Anne, that makes me happy for you. We're happy to have you. Yes, we are. Yeah. And I mean, you never know too, who you're gonna meet on here and what kind of difference that you can make in someone's life or somebody can make in your life, and I think a lot of people who follow true crime, have reasons for it. Maybe they've dealt with something like that. Maybe they grew up that way. Maybe there were dynamics that they can, relate to. I understand that. James Cooper says, I can't tell you how much I love Lady Freedom for staying on finding Sebastian. Oh, thank you, James. Thank you. When so many others have gave up on keeping his name alive, along with Silver's on the Scene. Where would this be without these two? Aw, Silver's on the Scene is great. Yeah, and then Mrs. Silver's too. Thank you, James. That really means a lot to me. I appreciate that so much. It's my pleasure. Thanks, Gigi. Good night, Bo. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing about the snakes. Like I said, I'm not as familiar, but it's really, really, really important to kind of, hear from people who know, Hey, Haunting Hope. Good to see you. Hey, Ava. Carla says, Ava, I hope you're able to deal with that. Okay, it sounds like it was done out of love and grief. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and it's amazing, like, how we can be, somebody that brightens someone else's day as well, or somebody might find comfort in someone else, like, hey, you remind me of this person or that person, yeah. And I think God puts people in people's lives for a reason, James says, yes, we love Lady. Or Carla says, yes, James, we love Lady. Keeping Sebastian's name out there. Sebastian strong, yes. Yeah. And, Sebastian's what keeps me going strong because, like I said, I want to know what happened. I want to find him. He deserves it. I don't want to be part of the ones that have failed him. Because, with CPS and everything, he never deserved that. Never, 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 ever. Nobody does, really. But, I mean, at least of all, somebody like Sebastian, sweet, caring, loving, special. Haunting Hope says, yes, James, I so appreciate their continued coverage. My kids still ask about Sebastian. Oh, Haunting Hope, that's so sweet. Just about every single day. I hate having to tell them he hasn't been found yet. Yeah, that's got to be so hard. Haunting Hope. And I've heard that from a lot of parents too. I think that is so sweet and caring that kids are worried about Sebastian. You know what I mean? Especially when you see like grown people who are like have no concept of that, I guess, or are so deranged that they, mentally ill, maybe they can't see it, but like for the little kids to say it is like, that is so sweet to me. Like just to hear that, it's like, good night, SI officer. I will see you later. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, Gigi, that is so true. You never know what someone has been through or is going through. It's always good to be kind, block those that are disrespectful. Yeah, because, there's no reason for it. Like, if somebody didn't do anything to you, why would you be disrespectful? Um, you know, yeah, there's so many reasons to just be nice to people, like you said too, Gigi. And like sometimes people will put out like a rough exterior, but really deep down inside, they have a lot of pain and inside, right? And they just don't show it. And so sometimes people think, well, that person's such like a hard nosed asshole, like they don't care, or whatever. But really deep down inside, that could be the person that is like so fragile that like you might hurt them so bad that they would hurt themselves or hurt someone else or, whatever it is. So it's so important to realize that. And, sometimes people aren't going to outwardly say things, that have hurt them or traumatized them. Um, but they're listening or whatever, what have you. Um, so just keeping that in mind that some people, do have those things going on. They just don't say it. Right. And sometimes that's the hardest because they're keeping that bottled up. Um, I'll never forget watching Dr. G Medical Examiner. I used to watch her a lot, and I'd always try to, figure out like whatever the autopsy result was going to be, right? I'm sitting there trying to figure out like what it could be, and it was an episode about this man, and it was very, very sad. But he had just lost like his girlfriend. Um, some other things had happened to him, and he was so depressed that he wasn't getting out of bed every day. And like I knew that was what took him out, right? And it was actually because he wasn't getting up to use the bathroom and things like that, and everything like backed up and stuff like into his system. It's amazing what depression can do to a person. It's absolutely like it could take their lives. You know what I mean? Just their spirit being taken, right? Their who they are, their joy is taken, and I would never want to be the one to drive somebody like that, so it's just important. And again, this person wasn't telling anybody what was happening. He was like laying in bed all day and wouldn't get up, um, sad. James Cooper says in Mob Crew included. Oh, love Chris at Mob Crew. Yes. Love how he caught it in the Texas Roadhouse video that KP was putting an earbud in after getting in her car. I was really impressed with that too, James. I was really impressed. I was like, how did I not see that too? Because I mean, I was zooming in on that too. But I was more like, okay, so I agree with what he was saying too. And I've said it here, just about looking at something, right? And then turning away for a little while, coming back to it. Right. But he was so right when he said it, because, here I am studying what's the green hoodie doing? I'm zooming in. What's the green hoodie doing? What's the green hoodie doing? And I wasn't even paying attention to or KP putting her earbud in or whatever it was, allegedly, of course. But really great catch, and that's the thing. I mean, some people are just so keen on detail, and, it's just about analyzing it over and over too. And you're going to catch more things every single time. Yeah. Hats off to Chris at Mob Crew. He's the one that deserves to be called Mr. Chris. No, I'm just kidding. Carla says, what would have been my dad, brother, and we went to see him every vacation. He showed me last year. He carries my grandkids' pics. I have 7 siblings, and he doesn't have theirs. Aw, that's so sweet, though. Aw, that's sweet, Carla. Aw. Hope my daughter asks me all the time, Mom, did they find Sebastian yet? Any new news on Sebastian? Lori, that is so sweet. That is so sweet. Yeah. I feel that, well, you guys know my daughter was texting me about the Idaho 4. I would love to pick her brain on Sebastian, you know, because she has gone to school for criminology. She is, you know, and psychology. I would love if she had enough time. I'm really hoping after she graduates with her master's that she will talk with me about it, because, you know, she knows, and, you know, she's kind of had a bird's eye glance. You know, sometimes she'll come in and watch. But, you know, she tells me that she really thinks that something was, you know, basically that it was an inside, you know, thing, an inside situation, you know. But I would love for her to take a further look at it. You know, I would love to know her perspective on it. Now, of course, I have told others too, like, you know, and I hate to say it, but I mean, nobody has been like, oh yeah, you know, the parents had nothing to do with it, you know, in terms of Katie and Chris, right? I've yet to have anybody say that they think, you know, that they think Sebastian walked off, especially when there's no evidence of that, you know. Gigi, Sebastian deserves justice. He really does. He deserves justice. I mean, no matter which way we slice it here, you know, like, even if somebody took him and has kept him for so long, like, he's got to be confused, scared, not understanding. He's missing his parents. He, you know, and by parents, excuse me, I mean his father, Seth, and his mother, Katie. No doubt. It's got to be traumatizing. You know, he has to wonder and worry. Yeah, he deserves justice no matter which way we slice it. James Cooper says, we appreciate you, Lady Freedom, can know that we watch or even join your channel, that we can know that we will hear his name till he is found. Absolutely, James. And I mean, that's the least I can do, you know, because honestly, when I first started covering Sebastian's case, I thought he was going to be found, like, you know, I didn't think it was going to come to this. I really didn't. You know, I was teetering back and forth with law enforcement. I was getting a little pissy pants with them and saying, you know, do something, get off your collective asses and do something. You know, I do remember saying that before, but I never thought it would go like this. Never thought it would go like this. Oh, Carla, yes, yes. Mob Crew is awesome. They're great. He's great. Chris, you know, so I just never thought it was going to go like this. It's the least that I can do. You know, Lonnie Anderson passed away. Oh my, Lori, I didn't hear that. Oh my goodness. Golly, we've lost so many celebrities lately. That is really tragic. I didn't know that. My goodness, thank you for letting us know. Yeah, James says, yes, he is. We would not know as much as we do if not for this video knowledge and great eyes, and catches the stuff that has been missed. And now he proves to us that misleading others. Well, and that's the thing too, you know, anybody who gets close, right, and who is analyzing these videos catches a lot of flack, you know. Yeah, they are, and that's all they're doing is trolling, Gigi. You know, I mean, that's the thing about them. You know, it's yeah. Trolls are disgusting. I just block them. They're waiting to get a reaction out of you, and they thrive on it. Exactly. It's like the narcissistic supply. It really is. They're like, oh, let's see how many people we can hurt today. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you like function in life like that? I don't get it. I really don't. You know. I really don't. Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that too. Carla, from what you said, I think that Ava, that's a good point. Do you like a DNA? James, I just pray for his protection too. Thank you so much. Sebastian's definitely blessed having Lady Freedom Silver's on the scene and Mob Crew on his case. It shows the real truth that they have not given up and keep him alive with awareness. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, James. That really means the world to me. And, I also want to shout out to the Voices of Truth, right? Hindsight, Mama Rissa, and BMW Coupe. Love those ladies. They are really trying to figure this out, right? Like piece by piece. They're so good at analyzing and researching. Also, we have our lovely Kiki 2025 True Crime. We have Smiley Story, who I love. We have Bullhorn Betty, right? There's a lot of us out there still. And then I see a lot of MMO, right? Tarot, she's doing a great job. I've been able to catch a couple of her lives. Our amazing Jen from Astrology for Mystics. And Jen does cover a lot of the stories in Tennessee as well. Like I saw her, she just did a live with, about Layla Santinello. So, just so many good people out there. I really do have a lot of hope. And, as much as we can get together and share each other's stuff and, support each other, I think that Sebastian is so very blessed to have so many great people in his army, right? And, I have to shout out Seth, his dad. I do. Lori, thank you. Lolly as well. I did read something about Lolly having some issues with acid reflux. So thank you, Lori, for reminding me because I wrote it down. I just didn't. I forgot. I almost forgot. So say prayers for Lolly, guys, because, again, she's doing the most to help out, right? To keep Sebastian out there. I support anybody that does that. Even if I listen to their live and I think, well, I don't really believe that or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's important. It's so important to spread awareness. It's important to spark a conversation. So everybody that's doing that, yeah, huge shout out to them. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. Thank you. And same to you, Gigi. I mean, to everyone out there that's doing that. Just so many good people that really want the truth, and the truth matters. Look, because if we're operating under wrong assumptions, we see how that works. If we're operating under something that we think is the truth and it's not, I mean, shit, we're stuck at square one. We're not getting anywhere. We're just turning our wheels, A couple things that I can say for certain, is one, I don't think Sebastian walked out on his own. No. Show me where he did that. Right? Show me where he did that. And why did the same light source come from the house and go back to the house? Right? I know that for sure too. I know for sure that there was a car in the neighborhood, 3:00 in the morning, that drove up Kellen, parked on Stafford, hightailed it out of the neighborhood, Good night, Kathy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I am going to cut the live short tonight because, again, I have some things I have to work on. And then, of course, we have a great show for you all tomorrow. Yes. Oh, my gosh, Lori, that was so amazing, right? I thought that was so great. Lori says, I loved what MMO and Jen came up with on Thursday. It blew my mind, Lady Freedom. Yes, and I would love to collaborate. That's another two that I would love to collaborate with, because even though I'm still not under full understanding of how Jen does the charts, right? Like, it's very, in my opinion, very intricate, and she has a lot of knowledge of astrology, right? And so, but just the way that she can put these things together and show the connections is like, wow, this is amazing, right? And it's very interesting. And I know where Jen's heart is, and I know that she's just, in it to find Sebastian. I feel that way with MMO too. I mean, I could just feel that she's like, what has happened here, And I can't imagine having those feelings and intuitions, you know what I mean? Like, and then not saying anything about it, right? It would be enough to drive you bonkers. And so, um, I really respect any avenue, of finding Sebastian and figuring out what happened here. And I think that the more people that are doing that, the better, and I'm just proud to be a part of, everybody that's doing that. I really am. I really am. Hey, Seclusion Works. Good to see you. Oh, Anne, I'm sorry. Well, we're working on something really good for him. I promise. I'm so sorry, Seclusion Works. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you're here. I'm very glad you're here. Oh, see, and that's the thing, guys. I mean, we all go through things. We all go through things. We all do. Having a good support system is the most important thing, in my opinion. Because and I hate hearing that any of my friends would be going through anything bad. I don't know why people do that either, Ava. I think, it says more about them than it does about you, Miss Anne. And, and the thing is that a lot of times, sometimes people just don't want to feel that deeply. Sometimes they can't, Oh, Django's having a dream over there. Hold on. Hold on a second. Django. Hey, buddy. You okay? I'm sorry. I can't stand when somebody's having a bad dream. Let them dream. You're okay. Yeah, James, that's a great point. We don't have to see eye to eye or even agree along, and all we want is the same very, very important thing, and that is Sebastian to be found and and the justice that he deserves. And I don't care which one happens first. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that is something really important to keep sight of, and also just on the flip side of things to remember. Yeah, as long as it happens, right? Yeah, James, exactly. And I often think about that too when I think about, kind of battle lines being clearly drawn and things like that, because it's like, hey, you never know how much, you might have in common with somebody, and they're just being, hateful because, whatever, you're the green team or something silly. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think a lot of us do have the same goal in mind, you know and sometimes that can be clouded up by, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. The truth, our supporter team, is most important. And that's the biggest thing for me, is the truth. It's like, what is the truth here? How do we figure this out? How do we figure it out? You know? And I think that we have the capacity to do it. I really do. Lisa Arnold, also Crime Time Buzz. Thank you. I forget about our Crime Time Buzz. And Justin's done some wonderful coverage. I was watching Justin's lives back, too. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Seclusion Works. Oh my goodness. Well, hey, you're not going through it completely solo, so I'm so sorry, and I think that is very tough, and I'm so sorry. I've felt like that too. Um, you never know though where, and I know it's like cliche, but like where God closes one door and opens another. I mean, you just never ever know. And a lot of times it's for something really great to come into your life. And I'm going to be praying for that for you, Seclusion Works, because, in my opinion, you're a good person and you deserve it. Aw. I'm so sorry, Miss Ann. I understand that seclusion works, but you know, I think that you're very strong and smart and capable, and you know, I know that you will do the right thing. You will. You will. Well, don't be embarrassed, hon. Mm. Aw, little Miss Sharon says, I understand. I went through that also with my daughter's dad passing. Yeah, it's never easy. It's never easy, especially when you feel like it's all on you. That makes it even harder. Well, and Miss Ann, just know that you have friends here too, and you know we're gonna do something really good. I promise. Yeah, people are like that, Lori. People are, and you know, and they don't even think about how it affects another person. You know, they really don't. I really don't think it's on their radar. That's why when people do that, I think seclusion. Like when people do that, again, I just think to myself, you know, I don't want to. I don't take it personally. I don't, you know, because it says more about them than it does about me, you know, and sometimes it's just like I said, they don't even think about it. They really don't, you know, they really don't. And that's unfortunate. You know, and sometimes you think like, oh, you know, if you're a deeply feeling person, you know, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, right? Kind of like a good memory or, you know, a bad memory, right? Um, Sometimes people wish they could remember more or, you know, wish they could remember less. Um, but yeah, I just really think that it just it's not something to take personally, and you know, giving that person your time isn't isn't always the best idea, you know. So if somebody acts like that, you know, Miss Ann, I really think that, you know, just kind of, you know, don't let them get to you. Don't let them take up too much of your, you know, your thinking space, you know, because we know that you love your son lots, and you know, um, we're going to do something good to honor him, and I hope that you do something good to honor him too, because there's lots of things that you can do, you know, cook his favorite meal that he liked, or you know, play a favorite song of his that he liked. um, there's just so many ways, and you know he's always with you. So yes, that is so true, Gigi. Yeah, God teaches us through our journey. Yeah, he's walking with us, right? You know, I believe that. I believe that. And you know, a lot of it too is, you know, asking him for answers, you know, and not finding validation in others is so important. It's, you know, because he works through us all, you know. He really does. I believe that, you know. And don't forget the great times. Yes, Gigi, that's always wonderful, you know, because that can always put you back in that place again, you know. Um, yeah, and I mean, even I told you guys I lost my mom in 2006, and I'll tell you there's times where I can still feel her giving me a hug. You know what I mean? So, and those are important things. Or the times I made her laugh, or the times she made me laugh. You know. So, oh, thank you, Little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's membership. If you get a membership from Little Miss Sharon, make sure you tell her thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. That's so sweet, Little Miss Sharon. Thank you. Yeah, you guys are the best. And you know, that's the one really important thing. There's not a lot of places these days, it seems like, that are real safe on YouTube. So I try to do a good job of that here. And you guys are so great too, because I couldn't have a compassionate, caring crowd of people like you guys, if it wasn't for you guys, right? Because everybody's got to do their part. I saw something today where it was like if everybody was kinder to each other or something like that, if the subs would revolt or something like that. And I was like, that's true, right? Because the creators, we can only do so much, right? But then it's like it's really up to the viewers and stuff too to be like, hey, I don't want to be involved in that, and everybody, will watch a train wreck because it's hard to look away, but in that regard, it's we all need to do our part. Oh, there you go. I love pizza too. Oh yeah. Aw. Yeah, Chewy likes to get the pepperoni. That's awesome, Miss Ann. That's awesome. We're going to do something special for him today, and I'm going to cook pizza for dinner tonight because he loves pizza, pepperoni pizza, and soda. What was his favorite soda, Miss Ann? Chewy has always fed her his pepperoni off the pizza. That's so cute. Chewy's adorable. Chewy looks like Chewbacca. I think, yeah, there you go. That sounds good. I love, like, butter cookies are my favorite. Seclusion Works. I actually have a cookie press from Pampered Chef, and I make spritz cookies, which are just butter cookies, like just, butter and sugar, and then you put them in the deal. But yeah, and I love them. I usually make them at Christmas time, so I like to cook more than I like to bake, but at Christmas time, that's always what I'll do is, make treats and give them out as gifts and stuff. Yeah, I think so too, James. James says, Gigi, I feel and believe there is evidence of who is responsible and guilty of Sebastian disappearing. We have seen and heard it. It might not be hard evidence, but in my opinion, enough that two people should not be. I agree. Out and about. Yeah. Little Miss Sharon Pizza Run. Yes. I love pizza too. I like pizza because, like, you could have all kinds of different pizza. Like, you could do chicken, you could do all kinds of stuff. I used to only be cheese. That's it, when I was young, but that's so sweet. So Chewy loves pizza too, so she's going to have a good day tomorrow too. Yeah, they should not be running free and living the best life. I don't think so. I don't know how they could be. I really don't, James. I really don't. And not to say that I'm like, oh, I hope they, I hope bad for them and everything. But I mean, really, knowing that they have guilty knowledge, in my opinion, that makes me, think the same thing, So. Hey, you never know. You never know when you're going to find money just on the floor. You never know. Ann says, my dad taught me to look on the ground for money, and there's times when I find money on the ground and I say, oops, there it is. Daddy gave me some money. Yeah. Well, and some people think like pennies and things like that. Yeah, Ann. That's funny. Yeah, it's hard. Lori says, damn, I try my best to stay away from the drama. It's tough. It really is, because it's like, you turn something on and next thing you know, it turns into drama or someone's talking about it. I try not to either. Yes. See there, Gigi knows what I'm talking about. And always pennies from heaven. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, and it's funny the things that you'll be sent if you look. If you're looking for it, yeah. Yeah. Aw, thank you, Gigi. I love you too. Oh, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, Gigi. I just saw. That's awesome. Thank you. I did have pizza tonight too, Lori. I ordered pizza because I was like, Oh, it was so late, and then I was like, I didn't even eat dinner yet. You know how that goes. I'll be like into something or doing something. Well, I was watching Chris, and then I look over. I'm like, oh gosh, because I try to keep the eye on the time, and then I forget, that I need to eat something. James says, I know that it is said innocent till proven guilty, and in my opinion, they have proven their guiltiness themselves and still nothing done about their actions. And in my opinion, that is enough for me. Something should be done. See, that's where I stand too, James, and I agree with you there because I feel like there's enough circumstantial evidence. I do. And I think just their actions have proven that there's some guilty knowledge there, and especially like looking back on some of the patterns that we see and comparing the cases and things like how do these stories match up so well, when we know for a fact in one that there's guilty knowledge, you know, and the other one we're alleging that there is, but there's reasons for it, it's because of what we're seeing, and especially many of us that have, followed a lot of different true crime cases, There you go, Gigi. I love doing that too. She says, I have frozen pizza. I'm about to doctor it up. I do that too. I do. I like getting those flatbreads too and stuff like that. Yeah. And I have a really good recipe for like pizza, homemade pizza. So I like to do that. I mean, you could do like chicken barbecue pizza. I've done that too. Libby likes that one. Did you, Lori? You ordered too? Yes, I like doing that. There's actually the place that I order from has a really nice salad too. Um, and it's like grilled chicken breast, but they have like some kind of like Asian sauce or whatever. It's really good. And I'll get that sometimes. But I got pizza this time. So Fiji Island fine 20s, and one time I found 520 was from my dad. Oh my goodness. Wow, Anne. I found like a $20 bill before. Yeah, I know, James. Exactly. Whatever happened to those arrests we heard was coming for so many months ago, but still nothing. And whatever happened to the dog, the bounty hunter, I thought for sure that something would be done, but by now. Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, I think that they've really done a good job of like keeping up with the leads and stuff, because I know a lot of the leads that were coming in weren't being followed up on. I do, and I it's not like I forgot, but I should have kind of remembered, but I think with the tragedy in Dog's family, that may be keeping, some of his you know capabilities and stuff. But I know At Night is still active. But then also, they were threatened. There was like a $100,000 hit out, allegedly, of course, but it just makes you wonder if that's what's going on there too. But I don't know for sure. Good night, Laura. Thank you for being here. Oh, see, Gigi, exactly. Due to double jeopardy, they only get one shot at guilty verdict. There's no physical evidence. See, and that's another thing too. And with it being such a high profile case, I fear that they'll get a really great defense lawyer, that may even, do it for half off or something, I would rather them not rush it, you know, if there is in fact no physical evidence, which that very well could be true, you know. So yeah, I want them to do it right. I do. And I'm willing to wait for that. I am willing to wait, even though I hate to, because I'm very impatient. I know. Lori says, James, we all thought something would be done by now. I know. Yeah, I really didn't think it was going to go this long. Aw, thank you, Laura. That's so sweet. Thank you. Yes, I love Asian salad. I like the ginger dressing. That dressing is so good. Like the one that you get when you're out at the hibachi, when they give you like the little salad. Like, it's so good. Um, I found like similar ones at the store. Um, but I also like to make my own dressings too, like with olive oil and like vinegars and stuff. It's kind of fun to make different dressings that way. Um, ooh, I need to try. I need the recipe for that. Gigi says I made an awesome Asian salad, girl. It was my go-to. Yeah, I love salads too, especially in the summertime. And it's been so hot, you know. I was like, um, yeah. Oh, good, Town Chat Cafe. I'm glad you got your project done. And Taylor is free now. Little Miss Sharon. Yeah, that, you know, Gigi, that is so right. For justice, we must learn patience. Oh, I know, and I have to remind myself of that, but you're so right, you know, like things are going to happen in their own time. And, you know, that's the hardest thing, you know. That's another thing that I had to learn too is like, you know, you have to wait. We have to wait for things, you know. We do. We do. Um, Especially if we want it done right. So, because we don't want them to, you know, prance out of the courtroom. Oh, we got off on, you know, and then they're never going to be able to be tried again, like you said, because the no double jeopardy means that, you know, you can't be tried for the same crime twice, you know. And we have to have faith in the justice system, which can be difficult. I think that's you know, that is valid. 80% conviction rate, no body Tennessee cases. I did read that once, that's the statistic behind it. You know, but to get a solid case, you know, I'm sure they are waiting for Sebastian to be found. That could be absolutely, you know, spot on. We just don't know. We just don't know. You know, but I think until then we could definitely analyze everything that we have over and over again, and, you know, keep Sebastian's name out there. You know, it's important. Oh, that sounds really good. Gigi says, I like the sweet Asian dressing too. Add some mandarin oranges and chow mein noodles to crunchy leaf lettuce. It's awesome. Ooh, that sounds really good. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I love like Asian inspired, you know, anything. That one's kind of like the one that they have over there is kind of like a sticky, it's like a wing sauce, but they put it like on the salad or whatever. It's really good. It's really good. Because I like getting wings from there too, but I didn't get wings this time. Absolutely, Gigi. Yeah, thank you all for being interested in talking with me about it. It's so important, you know. Yeah, Sebastian just really deserves to be found. He really does, and I don't know what that's going to look like. I just hope it happens soon, because it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But I love you all so much. I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. I really enjoyed talking with you all. We're going to do our special tomorrow night, I believe still. I want to make sure we do that tomorrow night. And I also want to start rolling out maybe some kind of afternoon shows, just like a quick, maybe, you know, come up for like an hour and talk with you guys. Maybe do some current events kind of a thing, like during the day, and then, you know, do shows at night too. So just something that I want to, you know, to work on for you know, coming up, because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's been a lot of updates in Jack and Lily's case, but I also still want to talk about everything going on with Sebastian, because there are still a lot of things that we can be analyzing. I still want to go over some of these older interviews and some comparisons, and I think that's important. Just to, you know, I think it's important to look at a lot of these patterns. So we may be doing some case comparisons. Also, I'd like to jump back into talking about Summer Wells, because I know that there's been some maybe new search details that maybe we can talk about. But I want to keep the conversation going, you know, because I really appreciate your feedback on everything, you know. I think it's important, and I think we can make a difference and spread awareness. So we'll do that. And then also look out for the video for Miss Ann. I'm going to be putting that out too, sometime tonight or tomorrow, hopefully. Well, because it's already tomorrow. So, and you know, I'm ahead of the game being on the East Coast. So, alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. I really, really, really appreciate everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow.